Astute, balanced, and confident. The ABCs of great talk radio. Join guest host Jeff Currier now as he fills in for the boss of talk, Charles Adler.
All right, let's have a show of hands. How many of you have ever been through a divorce? Yikes. It's more than I thought. Well, it turns out that men and women react rather dramatically differently from a physiological standpoint to divorce. There's a new study from researchers at Ohio State University that says generally, following a divorce, that men gain weight. Women gain weight after they get married. Now, yeah, I know. A whole bunch of you, with your hands still up, are nodding in agreement. We're going to talk to a couple of folks today about this phenomena, this new study, and whether or not there's any validity to it. Jane McDougall is columnist for Zoomer Magazine and with the National Post. She's speaking to us today from Vancouver. Cary Castagna is the Sun's Media Weekly Keeping Fit columnist, and he is in Edmonton, Alberta. Cary and Jane, thanks to you both for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, this is, I guess in some senses, not going to shock a lot of people, that women gain weight after they get married, men gain weight after they get divorced. Jane, let me start with you. Does this surprise you in any way?
Well, I was thinking about this in terms of the fact that they say that the least happy people in the world are married women, and the happiest people in the world are married men. So the least happy are unmarried women, and the happiest are married men. So I think it's interesting. If that axiom is true, then consider that they're saying that divorced men, unmarried men, are gaining weight, and married women are gaining weight. It would seem that it's a question of your degree of happiness, and the less happy you are, the more likely you are to gain weight. Doesn't speak very well of matrimony for women, does it?
No, it really doesn't. Cary, what do you make of this?
Hey Jeff, well, I'm married myself, and I think like my wife and I mean, we both put on pounds after we got married about 5-6 years ago, and like basically, I guess you just kind of get comfortable, right? I mean, you always hear about couples getting comfortable, and you get kind of in some bad habits, and I mean, after we put our daughter to bed, sometimes we'll grab some ice cream and sit down in front of the TV and kind of just unwind like that. So.
So you need to get divorced and get your shape back.
Yeah. Well, I have a hard time believing that part, because I know actually one guy that's going through a separation, and he looks better than ever, and he's dyed his hair because he's back on the prowl now.
Yes,
so,
yes,
right. He's got to look good, right?
Single men. I mean, the entire personal training industry is based on the special needs of divorced men, I would say.
Yeah.
That and veneers and hair plugs.
Well, okay, Jane.
Convertibles.
All right, let me ask you. Let me ask you the sexist question of the day, and that is that for women, once they get married, they've got them. The nest is feathered. They don't need to worry about looking good anymore.
We just rest on our laurels.
They just you got us. The ring is there. The house is there. I got them. I don't need to worry about any of the rest of that stuff anymore.
I think the focus just shifts. You're suddenly at home more. As your other guest said, you're comfortable, and life starts to revolve around the refrigerator and the TV. So I think it's a bit of a dangerous trap, and I think there's probably. They talk about things like the freshman 15. Kids go off to university and start living in a dorm and instantly pack on some weight. There's probably the equivalent in matrimony. But my experience is that men, when they're newly divorced, for the most part, I mean, there's perhaps a spell where they put on some pounds, but they tend to get back into fighting form.
Well, yeah, because, you're out there against probably some guys who are younger than you are, maybe have more hair, and probably have a newer wardrobe.
I think this probably says more about Ohio State than it does about the rest of us. Probably a lot of fat, happy married women and a lot of fat, unhappy divorced men.
Well, you can sort of understand, Cary, I guess, when a guy if you get divorced, especially if you've been dumped, that the tendency to sit there and eat eat boxed food and fast food and all the rest of that stuff.
Probably drink beer too.
And probably knock back a few suds. They might pound a couple of those and sit in the bar and eat peanuts and all that sort of thing. Like, that'll happen for a while. But as Jane says, after a while, you want to kind of get back in the game a little bit. And so that's when you come in with keeping fit and trying to get people to start thinking about their health again.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, I think I can definitely see that. I mean, it's kind of that initial, you're going through, pretty traumatic point in your life, and you're finding comfort. But then I think once you get over that initial mourning period, then you kind of think about hitting the gym once again and starting.
Have either of you seen the movie Crazy Stupid Love?
No,
I haven't seen that yet.
I can't say that I have.
Carroll's wife dumps him, and the next scene is Steve Carroll sitting in a bar drinking drink after drink, some little drink that comes with a straw, and then he gets taken under the wing of a real alpha male who teaches him the ropes again. But for the first while, that's what he's doing, is sitting in a bar, sort of licking his wounds, and when you consider that a beer's got close to 200 calories, and a mixed drink is, getting probably over 300, you guys might as well be eating Haagen-Dazs like they say we gals do at home.
Well, you see, I think men, after they get married, want to stay reasonably fit and trim, because one of the reasons men get married is because they think they're going to get sex every night.
Is that still happening?
Well, the sex isn't, but the expectation, the hope and the expectation of the sex is. And so women, once they get married, think, oh, I don't have to worry about sex anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. Yeah. But
both of them are just so she's thinking that thank heaven she can sort of put away the lingerie, and he's thinking he's going to be seeing it every night.
Well, yeah, there's that old joke about why brides are smiling as they walk up the aisle. I can't repeat the joke on the air here, but we're all grown-ups here. We've all heard it, right? So there may be is there some truth to that?
But I think, just to throw in a new wrinkle, like I think with kids, I mean, when kids come along, then, because that's what I'm going through now. I got a 3-year-old daughter, and I want to be a good role model for her, and I think we both are, starting to go out for walks instead of, sitting in front of the TV and winding down like that. So, we're doing, a lot of different things like that, and I'm just in the process of trying to lose a bunch of weight after gaining, a pile in the last several years. So, so I think the kids kind of add a new dynamic, and you definitely want to be a good role model.
I guess, we don't want to. You don't have to waddle your kid around the block, right?
Yeah, exactly.
it's very uncool. Jane,
but it's interesting that, we women are the ones that always get typified as the ones that come to breakup. I mean, the joke is that in fact, you've seen this probably in countless movies. The woman gets on the sofa in her sweatsuit and gets at least one tub of Haagen-Dazs going. And that's the whole thing.
Which is okay when you're Diane Lane, right? Because Diane Lane never puts on 60 pounds.
But still, what we presume is that women are the ones who seek solace with things like ice cream and cream puffs and whatever. And so this is interesting to me that the study is finding just the opposite. Or at least they didn't even say women, they just said get fat when they get married. Or shall we say put on some pounds. Fat's probably too strong a term. But that men should do that. It's a bit of a switch on what we would presume. But my general thinking is that gender roles are getting a little bit complicated.
Yeah, well, okay. Anyway. Is part of the old stereotypical image of that the women still tend to do more of the domestic work, and so they don't go out and still play hockey with their buddies a couple of times a week, or they don't go to the gym quite as often, is because they are generally spending more time either caring for the kids or doing the stuff around the house, and it's simply a time factor.
That's my experience. What about your other guests? Is your wife getting out as often as you are?
Yeah, Cary, is that fair comment? Is there still a little bit of that going on?
Actually, I would say probably my wife works harder than I do, and she's tougher than I am, and she takes she takes. I guess she's more resilient and that sort of thing.
I love you, Cary.
You know, Cary, you know what? For a fitness columnist here, you're not selling me on this.
Well, but as far as what I see though out there though, I mean, women are doing a lot of different things. Like they are. I mean, you can do, various exercises with your, your babies, and they've got all sorts of classes. You can, take salsa with your baby, and salsa baby classes, and all sorts of
an interesting
stroller
thing to
classes.
consider as well is women used to get married at least a decade earlier than they do now.
Yeah.
Weight gets to be a bigger issue as you move into your 30s. So there's some other interesting things
that may have
happening
something
here.
to do with it. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're not going to pack on. You're not going to
your
pack
20s.
on those big pounds when you're 22, 23. But when you're 34, 35, it becomes a bit more of a challenge.
that's a good point.
Exactly. So maybe these statistics have to do also with just the fact that the whole time continuum has been moved along a bit.
All right. So
You're seeing more people, getting married in their 30s for sure.
All right. So the bottom line here is Jane McDougall and Cary Castagna is that you would pay almost no attention to this Ohio State University study.
Well, I'm not going to Ohio, that's for sure. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of slim, happy people there. You've got, as I say, it sounds like unhappy, chubby married women and deeply unhappy, chubby divorced men.
Cary, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I think it's just too general. I mean, like most, surveys and studies, I think it's, for each person, they're probably, a lot different circumstances, and I think you got to, definitely take it with a grain of salt. And, I guess if anything, it'll make you look at your own life, and if you need to, get a little more active, it might, just give you another reason to get moving.
Yeah, not too much salt. Bad for the arteries. Helps you put on weight. Jane McDougall is columnist for Zoomer Magazine and the National Post. Cary Castagna is the Sun Media's weekly Keeping Fit columnist. I want to ask you what your experience has been at 1-800-665-2202 on the Chorus Radio Network.
Discourse with no remorse. Filling in for the boss of talk, guest host Jeff Currier. This is Charles Adler
On CJOB 68.
You're listening to Charles Adler with guest host Jeff Currier. You can still email me anytime, though. Charles@charlesadler.com.
On CJOB 68.